Save the World is a victim of powered creep pretty badly. Weapons that were S tier 5 years ago are C tier now, and while the weapons and heroes got better and better, outclassing everything before it, for better or for worse, this whole time gadgets have been sitting here neglected by Epic and kind of by the players too. So let's rank them. Number 8, Teleporter. This has the potential to be really good, but it just ended up really clunky. First off, I really don't like that you put down both teleporters at the same time. It would have been way better if you only put down one at a time, instead of having to put them down, pick up one, slowly walk over to where you need it to be, the whole time getting harassed by all the husks following you. Make sure not to sprint your mantle or else you'll drop it, and if it drops you have to pick it up to activate it again. Why? It's also just not very helpful in a game like Save the World. Maybe with some reworking it could be really great for mobility for something like Survive the Horde or Storm Shield. I don't know. There is a really powerful strategy you can use where you have a Xenon Bow's arrow go back and forth to one-shot a mini-boss. You just have to hope that the mini-boss decides to walk in between the teleporters, because sometimes they like to just go off and do their own thing, or you have to set this up while the mini-boss is active. So like, there's a few situations where it can be helpful, but in most cases, it's just too clunky to be any good. Number 7, Supply Drop. Why do people like this so much? I don't get it. How it works is that every 5.5 minutes, you get 85 wood, brick, and metal, 1 crafting item, 1 twine, 1 rough ore powder, 1 mechanical part, 1 trap, and some ammo. Again, every 5.5 minutes. How is 85 metal every 5.5 minutes supposed to help? I can get that in seconds if I'm farming. Even in a farming loadout, you're better off with turrets or slow field to deal with the husks that are attacking you. Hell, I'm sure in the time that it takes to call it in and pick up the mats, I could get more than 85 metal. I just don't see the appeal. I get people don't like to farm, I understand that, but it takes seconds to get what a supply drop gives you. Just mine some stuff while you wait for the defense to start, or something if you're that allergic to farming. Number 6, Airstrike. This has potential, and I love the idea, but there's just 2 big things wrong with it. How it works is that you call in some bombs, they fall from the sky and do tons of damage. This could kind of be like the opposite of the turret, tons of damage all at once, whereas the turret is lower damage over a period of time, where if you combine them both, you have something for every scenario. But in execution, they just don't do enough damage. And even when they do, the splash radius of the bombs just isn't big enough, so a lot of husks just hit the action command over and over to dodge the nukes. It has a ton of impact, but that's almost worse than no impact, since in situations like this, it'll just push the enemies away from the blast radius. Like, this does damage, and most of the time it will kill a good amount of basic husks and husklings, but most of the time you're better off saving the gadget slot for a slow field or a banner or something, especially since it takes 2.5 minutes per airstrike, meaning you get basically 1 per wave during a van defense, or 3 during an Atlas mission. It's just not that helpful. Number 5, Proximity Mines. To be honest, before getting this footage, I never used the proximity mines, and I was honestly really impressed with the damage. Look at this. If you're wondering how they work, it's in the name. It's a proximity mine. My main issue with them is that it's really easy to have them blow up prematurely. On top of that, when they do blow up, they set off a chain reaction, making something like this, what I was attempting here, impossible, where they'd have to go past a line of mines to get to me. Placing them down also takes forever, and oftentimes you just take a ton of damage just putting one down. And there's a cooldown of 1 minute per mine, meaning it has a total cooldown of 10 minutes. I can imagine there's some really cool clips that can be made with them, but for my experimentation and research, they're just too clunky to be actually helpful, especially since traps are infinitely better. Number 4, Banner. Banner does a lot of things. It heals all the structures, oh my god, that's amazing, in a 1 tile radius. It increases building health by 250% for 45 seconds. It creates a shockwave, which does 89 base damage. None of that really matters, but what carries the banner so much is that putting it down, it functions as a respawn point. In a mission where you're going to be dying a lot, like the 160s, it's extremely helpful to be able to respawn at the defense more than once. Outside of rally missions, its uses are limited though. Like in MSK, Survive the Horde, or Hit the Road, it's practically useless since you can't respawn. And if you're of level and the modifiers aren't that hard, it's pretty easy to just not die in a lot of missions, even 160s, making the fact that you can respawn not a huge deal. Like in this mission, I had to go out of my way to get footage of me dying. The fact that you can just respawn at your defense is good enough to put this in A tier. And even though I complained a lot, it's still really helpful a lot of the time. Number 3, Slow Field. It's pretty simple. You throw it down and it creates an area where enemies get slowed down. My main issue with it is that I find it most useful against smashers and mini-bosses to keep them still, which sometimes just doesn't work or help a lot due to the fact that it's pretty small. It can be used to slow down everything else, but there's already multiple traps that serve that purpose, and with a cooldown of 3 minutes, I get scared to use it against some basic husks because what if we get spammed by smashers in a minute? Even still, when it works, especially against a mini-boss in a minigun loadout or during MSK's mini-bosses, it's really good. And if there's too many husks to handle, a situation that is very common for an endgame player, it can help a lot. Number 2, mounted turret. Putting this in number 2 is kind of funny. This gadget is in the number 2 spot, and what does it do? It lets you not play the game at all. Hell yeah. You pull it out and it shoots for you. Simple as that. This practically insta-kills everything in Stonewood and Plankerton, so if you have Undercover Buzz in lead, you can completely AFK V-Buck missions. Once you get to Twine, especially late Twine, it falls off really hard, barely able to kill basic husks, but it's probably better that way, honestly. Even in 140s though, if you put down both, it's still a decent-ish help. Number 1, Adrenaline Rush. This is easily the best gadget in the game, no question. It's in literally every single loadout I have. With a single click, you can get a large amount of your health back, just like that. And if that's not good enough, it also heals your teammates. And on top of that, if you max it out, it'll also revive your teammates. It can be used in literally every situation and every single loadout, without exception. Easy number 1 spot, no question. This list is based off of my own experiences and playstyles, so some of the gadgets might be better than I give them credit for. I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I'm the smartest person with this game, I probably got a bunch of stuff wrong. But whatever,